All right, so you guys said that you have heard some stuff about the gut being something we want to heal. You kind of have baseline knowledge. We're not really sure like what the gut is, how important it really is to everyone's health. So these are just some terms that if you want to go back and read through things that do apply to the gut. So brief overview, digestion, right? That is how our food is broken down. Elimination is how we excrete it. So everybody is breaking down food, excreting things through feces. We also are excreting like toxins. And the microbial balance in our gut is the good versus the bad bacteria, which we will get into, but there are a whole bunch of bacteria that outnumber our cells lining our small and large intestines. So they are not in your stomach. The barrier function is referring to what is getting into our gut versus into our bloodstream. So that is the barrier. And then the gut-brain connection is how the nerves in our body are connecting our brain to our gut. Okay, so again, we're not going to define all of these fully. And so we have different microbiomes in our body. Some in our gut, we have some in our vagina, we have them in our mouth, on our skin, and these are just bacteria that literally live on us and are changing and are influencing a lot of different things in our health. So we actually have more bacteria than cells in our body. And so this photo here does a pretty good job of showing how, so up here is the bloodstream on the top. And down here, these are the cells, the barrier cells in our intestines. So the food comes into our body through our mouth, esophagus, stomach, goes into the intestines. It's being broken down, and then the nutrients are absorbed through these cells into circulation in our bloodstream. And so that is how we get nutrients to fuel all of the cells in our body. We have some problems that sometimes arise in a condition called leaky gut, which is what a lot of people on social media call it. It's oftentimes called intestinal permeability in more of the research, when the lining of these cells starts to wear down for various reasons, and then those cells will start to pull apart a little bit. So then particles of our food that are not supposed to be in circulation can get into circulation, and that can sometimes cause the food sensitivity reaction and autoimmune reactions that some people struggle with. So what we can do is make sure that that barrier is really strong. And we're going to talk about some of the things that we can do for that, because a lot of times, I mean, when people are really, really sick in the functional medicine world where I work, we can order certain tests to look at that barrier function. That has not really made its way to conventional medicine. So again, I don't always think that these tests are necessary if we are optimizing our health and we understand like what we can be doing and why certain foods can help certain things like leaky gut. And I would say that a lot of Americans have some degree of this, especially people who have gone through different treatments and they're not finding their symptoms going away. Then that's when we do want to maybe look to gut health. But it really is a big piece of everyone's health, because our gut does produce these good bugs of our gut produce anti-inflammatory compounds. So we know that inflammation can come from a lot of different things. It can be something we're born with. It can be something from different stressors in our environment. So our good bugs, we can fuel those to produce more of these good compounds that fight inflammation. They help to break down different hormones like estrogen. They help even make neurotransmitters like serotonin. So that's where the gut-brain connection really comes from, is that we are producing neurotransmitters in our gut that influence our brain. And then also our immune system is really, really impacted by the gut. And melatonin, being also a hormone that influences sleep, is also connected to the gut. And then the so-called bad bugs are going to basically do the opposite of that. So we want to not fuel those. So some things that have been shown to kill our good bacteria or just influence the balance of good to bad are antibiotics. So those are killing off good and bad bacteria. So after we take antibiotics, we want to definitely focus on gut health then by adding in some of the protocols I'm going to talk about. Hormonal birth control there are some studies showing its impact on the gut being a little bit negative. Formula feeding, so we know that breast milk has different antibodies and things that help a baby's gut health. Alcohol, and then refined sugar. And so, well, all of that is somewhat sad to hear because these things are very prevalent in our environment. We also can do a lot, and our microbiome can really change quickly. So that is encouraging. So alcohol, besides also influencing the gut microbiome, bacteria, also influencing sleep quality, which then influences stress and comes back to influence our gut. And so, again, working on moderation in all things. So, doing lower sugar drinks too can be better. A few gut puns here. Okay, so probiotics are something that a lot of people will take, and they will feel some form of benefit. They might feel less bloated, they might have more regular poos, they might feel even maybe more energy. So these are something that I will sometimes have people take, but I also prefer to just get them from food if we can. So fermented foods will have them, like kefir, yogurt, sauerkraut, kombucha. And these are actually adding in more of the good bacteria into our gut. Whereas prebiotics, oh shoot, I didn't have a slide. Well, I have another slide later on. Prebiotics are actually giving fuel to the bacteria. Okay, so the probiotics are the bacteria. The prebiotics are the food for the good bacteria. So then they have the ability to produce all of these different compounds that are good for our health. And so when it comes to food, really the theme of this entire chat is to encourage you to eat plant-based foods because they will influence our gut. They will also contain what are called polyphenols. So these are really just parts of different plants. So they're not a calorie, they're not a carb. They're like a chemical compounds found in plants that have been shown to fight off disease, fight cancer, improve brain health, just do so many different things. And so that is why consuming a variety of things that come from plants is really beneficial. So fruits and veggies being one, but also herbs and spices are really, really great. I put dark chocolate in its own thing because I just love that cacao and dark chocolate has polyphenol qualities, as well as like tea, coffee. That's one reason why some studies will promote red wine, again, in moderation. And then, I mean, grains and nuts and seeds will have some as well. Okay, so we can definitely be adding in plant-based foods. I have another slide that will talk about the prebiotic foods and which foods have those. But another term that comes up a lot in the health space is detox. How do we improve detoxification? And so this is really the body's process of getting rid of things that aren't supporting our health. So getting rid of toxins from chemical products, from beauty products, from cleaning products, from alcohol, from even detoxing like caffeine and medication. And so the gut's role is that the cells lining the gut have a detox system. The composition of the gut microbiota can alter how toxins, drugs, heavy metals, other things are metabolized. And then the gut and liver have this communication access to break down things and excrete them in our bile and our poop. So the gut is important for detox, as well as bidirectionally, the nutrients we consume help our body detox more efficiently. So moving on to how do we actually assess our gut function? Maybe you're like, I don't want to assess my gut function. I just want to do the things that help my gut. That's okay if you're in that space. If you're curious about how to actually assess gut function, there are some markers that we can run. Zonulin is one marker. Food sensitivities could be helpful to see. Some people who have a lot of leaky gut have tons of food sensitivities that come up. Same with parasites, H. pylori, fungi, candida. These are all things that if you look at some functional medicine practitioners' pages, they will talk about. These are real things. However, just because we have something bad present doesn't always mean that we have to just immediately remove it and do what's called like a kill protocol, like take an antibiotic or take an herbal remedy that will kill it. Sometimes what we can do is just support our body's ability to fight these things off, which is more the approach that I take and why I talk a lot about supporting our stress management, supporting our protein needs, things that give our body the ability to fight all these things off, micronutrients as well. You can also look at in some stool tests the levels and types of different bacteria strains. There's a lot more research coming out on which strains are really beneficial. How should we support these? Should we add in probiotics? So there are more ways to really look, but I like to just share what we can do that is free of cost. And then more like qualitative things would be like thinking about, how is my vagus nerve functioning? So your vagus nerve is like the biggest nerve in your body. It's the one that's connecting your brain to your digestive system. So one thing that can relate to that is how well in touch are you with your hunger? Are you able to get into a state of calm rather quickly? I know, like for me, when I've had a really stressful day, if I go do yoga or meditation, it might take me a long time to get to that calm state. Whereas on a day that I'm just chilling, vibing, I can quickly get to that state. That's the vagus nerve. And that really is a muscle that we can actually train. Some people that wear those like Whoop bands, they are constantly checking their heart rate variability and seeing how different protocols they do will improve that heart rate variability. The Bristol stool chart, that is like how thick or thin is our poo. Dietitians love to talk about that. So they should be long, snake-like, 1 to 3 per day. That would be considered normal poo. Many people do not even realize that they are constipated. If they are straining a little bit, they're going every 1 to 3 days, or maybe going back and forth from loose stools to thicker. So having consistent poos, that is definitely one way to look at that. And then if you do something like an elimination diet, or maybe adding something in where you are doing extra detox foods, do you get different changes in energy, mental clarity, weight, periods, other symptoms? So all of these things could be relating to improved gut function. And so the ancestral wisdom nugget I would like to share about gut health is spending time in fasted state. So this does not mean doing like intermittent fasting. For some people, that can be helpful. For most people that I'm working with who, again, are looking to more like optimize their health, they don't have a chronic disease, just spending 12 to 14 hours in a fasted state overnight can provide some benefits, as well as even just not grazing throughout the day. There's going to be days where you have more times that you eat, and that's okay. But I know, like for me, being able to cut down to 3 times a day to eat has actually taken a lot of stress out of my life. Like I just don't have to think about food as often. And as we regulate other hormonal signals with our eating, and we have that consistent pattern, a lot of times people will notice that's easier for them, and that gives your gut just more time to rest, because digestion does take a lot of energy. The microbes are doing a lot of work, so giving them time to rest in between meals can help them to actually have more detoxification processes turned on, and especially overnight in that 12 up to maybe 16-hour time frame can allow them to detox. So that is definitely more how our ancestors lived, is they were getting up with the sun, eating a couple big meals, and going to bed. One other tidbit of improving digestion is just making sure we are chewing really well, because there are sometimes when, if we're in a stress state or rushing, our body does not produce as much of the digestive juices, the stomach acid that it needs, and that could actually lead to food sitting in our gut too long. The bad bacteria end up fermenting it, producing things that are not helpful for our health. So chewing food, eating in a calm state. I will continue to remind everyone to do that because it is tough. So everything really is connected. What you guys can actually be doing to support, let's skip over that. Support your gut health. Takeaways: consuming these prebiotic fibers. So all fibers are good fibers, but there are a segment of foods that have more of this prebiotic fiber that really feeds the gut. So onions and garlic, throwing that into something. Some of the fruits that people commonly can find in stores like bananas, berries, kiwi, apples. There's some other weird ones if you do more research, but again, all fibers will have some degree of prebiotic and benefit to the gut. Just these ones have the most. Potatoes are great, ground flaxseed, psyllium fiber, oats. I actually, coming back to ground flaxseed, I don't use these as much because they do contain some estrogen. So for younger women, I like to limit the amount of estrogen we're adding in, whereas people in menopause who have less estrogen, they're better for, but yeah, and then also just foods that support our detoxification. So things that contain like green tea, turmeric, a lot of our green vegetables, broccoli and cauliflower, the cruciferous vegetables are great for all of that. So really just variety. Also an interesting slide from a recent training I was in about how relationships and social isolation, mental health, all these things associated with more inflammation. So we also want to make sure we take a holistic approach and include things that are good for our soul, people that are good for our heart too. Eat more plants, drink more tea though. Really the nutrition takeaways from how to support gut health. The variety of colors of things is a really good way to look at fruit and veggie intake. So finding like frozen veggie packs that have more variety, frozen fruit packs that have more variety can be an easy way to increase that. And then even just switching it up every like month, maybe you try one new type of a fruit or veggie recipe or something. But still quality proteins too. Like I said, our gut really needs those amino acids to be functioning well. A way to take out some of the toxins and things that would take some strain off of our gut and other detox organs is also just using glass containers, using the avoiding the dirty dozen. These are all like things that I think are later on. If you don't want to focus on them right away, I would focus more on like your daily habits. But things like sauna detox or sauna, sweating more often, all of these things can indirectly help our gut too. So these would be where some of the products I mentioned are found. Amazon, I'm always working on updating that storefront with some of my like go-tos, and then this ebook has some more about the pre and probiotics. So yeah, questions on tools for gut health.
That's a lot of info.
Yes, kind of a motivator of like, why should I eat more vegetables? It's not just because they're low in calories, like it truly is because they have so many powerful benefits.
I do. Oh, girl, go ahead, Bailey.
Oh, I was just gonna ask what I put in the chat if prebiotic sodas like Olipop actually are helpful or if they aren't. I don't know how to say it.
Typically in Olipop. Yeah, I definitely don't think it's gonna hurt. I don't think it has as much like as a I mean, some of the supplements I have a little bit higher levels, but I would look at, and I've even put the recommended fiber goals for Americans. For women, it's like 25 grams. For men, about 35 grams. Higher levels, some studies will find, even more benefit with fiber. So I think that Olipop has maybe 3 grams of fiber or something. And so definitely not gonna hurt. Just shouldn't be your only source of fiber if you're trying to get up to 25 grams. I also have a list of
For like the day. Sorry,
well, you're
25 grams like for the day or for like, yeah. Okay, I was like, that's a lot of fiber. Okay.
yeah, per day, which most people, when I have them track, are not quite reaching that. But as we just increase to 3 to 5 servings of fruits, vegetables, I love like doing psyllium fiber or a drink like that to get a couple extra grams. You can definitely get to that. It is doable. And so that is also why some people will do really well with a more vegan plant-based diet. I know that I talk a lot about getting enough protein because I find that that really helps people with like hunger cues, building muscle. But once you've done that for a while, then I really think focusing on fiber is like the next step because you're able to, feel still that more energy and have all those amino acids. And then if you dip a little lower in protein, but you're increasing the fiber, you can still really feel good. Like there's no perfect ratio of protein, fat, fiber. Like it really is still, we're still learning a lot about that. So yeah, if you're gonna experiment with another type of eating pattern, plant-based definitely can be helpful. It just, for some people, that's gonna be a lot of carbs if we're not focused on the whole unprocessed foods. I see a lot of vegan products on the market that I'm like, okay, that just because it's vegan, it's definitely not healthier. It's still very refined, processed, added sugars. But if we're doing a ton of variety of fruits and veggies and then just maybe 1 or 2 servings of meat a day, like that can be great. So
I got detox and cleanse confused. So my comments at the beginning were about cleanses and not detoxes. Sorry.
I mean, they're kind of used interchangeably, honestly. Like
Yeah.
it's really just a term for like taking things out of your body, like, but it's just kind of like how some practitioners use it, like a juice cleanse. Like I never would do that. Or a grapefruit cleanse. Like people used to eat like all grapefruit for a day. No. But supporting detox pathways is more what I'm talking about. Metabolic detox, whereas like in scientific literature, there would never be the word like cleansing pathways. So yeah, I think that any any protocol that we talk about in meetings like would be supporting detox. Like all of these things I'm telling you are connected, but I think, yeah, it's learning like, why does yoga also help? It's because it helps your vagus nerve. And being able to make those connections of like, oh, when I go on a walk after I eat a big meal, I actually do digest it better. Or when I don't eat my breakfast in 2 minutes, I do digest it better because Kelly said I'm getting more stomach acid and my gut doesn't have to work quite as hard. So
Yeah, that was interesting. I don't know if I still quite fully understand it, but that's so it regulates a lot of different, like it's correlated to your stress levels as well, right? Like you had kind of mentioned, like it can mess up like your hunger cues and it could be caused by several different things.
yeah. Yeah. So like all of our brain controls a lot of hormones, but also our organs connect to our brains through the nervous system, through different signaling pathways. So, I mean, for one example, if our brain, okay, so we're sensing a lot of stress. We have a lot of cortisol going on. It's a really busy day. You're feeling anxious. Our brain is probably not going to be triggering that vagus nerve as well. And so we're not going to get into that calm state where we actually do feel those hunger signals coming as well. On the other hand, sometimes people do experience too much hunger, and their body is resisting their fullness signal. So that's a little bit of a different kind of mechanism. But like, for example, I know that you were struggling with eating breakfast. You said you weren't really hungry. It could have been related to, okay, you're waking up, you're a little bit stressed. You're just not used to that, and getting into that calm state in the morning, maybe doing a walk, some meditation too, can help your body to get used to that, as well as just making it a routine. Yeah. So lots of fun connections. That's also why I talk about like romanticizing your meals, like having a pretty plate, sitting down, lighting a candle sometimes, like becoming like, that's how like people in Europe kind of, maybe not that exact thing, but like the Mediterranean style of eating. It's like they are grazing on foods, but they're eating for longer periods of time, but they're making it more of like a social calming thing. And maybe that's why they have better health outcomes than Americans, because
Mhm.
like how they think about food and they're less stressed. That can be part of it. So
Let's just move to Europe. That's what I'm gonna take out of this.
literally. You know,